my own experience, and that was bad enough. But, and I think there was already common knowledge in the industry, too, that this was someone to be careful of.
Pamela Anderson entered. Slow motion on Baywatch beaches, and her red swimsuit became a worldwide symbol. It made her well known in 142 countries. But with the financial downfall of 5 spouses and countless scandals, she disappeared from the public eye. When she reappeared, admirers were shocked. No more bleached hair, no more false eyelashes, and no more skimpy attire. You won't believe her current appearance, and it's much more difficult to comprehend the traumatic tale of her metamorphosis. Pamela Anderson was born on July 1st at 4:08 a.m. It wasn't just any day in 1967 in Ladysmith, British Columbia. It was Canada's newspapers dubbed her the Centennial because of how perfectly she timed her 100th birthday. On that day, she was born, the first baby in the entire nation, to her parents. Barry Carroll, a waitress, and a furnace repairman were an average couple, yet there before the daughter could even open her eyes, her name was already in the press, and the family received awards and financial rewards. Pamela would subsequently claim that it all began due of the timing alone. Her great-grandfather was one side of her blended heritage, which was as diverse as Canada itself. When Joe arrived in Canada in 1908 from Sarvi, Finland, he changed his name to Anderson, most likely unaware that it would eventually become well-known worldwide on the opposite side. The vile German Mennonites, who had escaped Russia, were Pamela's ancestors. Rosie Friesen, her maternal grandmother, was born in Manitoba to flee persecution, but originated in those German-Russian towns, and there were also traces of Scottish and Northern Irish ancestry. Her heritage was a great combination of survival and struggle movement. Match for someone who would go on to repeatedly reinvent herself in 1971. The family lived in a little cabin near Ladysmith when brother Jerry was born. Later, she and her parents moved to a larger home in Comox, but it wasn't always stable. Barry was 19 and Carol was 17, and they divorced shortly after. Money was the family occasionally lived on poverty, yet despite the turmoil, Pamela and Jerry had a good relationship that remained solid after they both ended up in the Jerry entered the entertainment business as an actor and producer, even collaborating with on movies and television shows. He and his sister occasionally walked the red carpet together, side by side, demonstrating that their upbringing did not break them in high school. Pamela was the complete reverse of what the world would eventually see at Comox's Highland Secondary from 1981 and 1985. She participated in volleyball, track, and other sports. Kids called her Rubber Band because she was quick, nimble, and brave. She wore braces, felt self-conscious about her appearance, but her yearbook dream was straightforward. It's kind of dumb to be a beach bum in California, and nobody, not even her, thinks that it would occur. Pamela Anderson had no intention of becoming well known when she left in 1988. She relocated to the city of Vancouver from her little hamlet on Vancouver Island. When she was 21, she got a job at a tanning salon and as a fitness teacher. Wasn't glitzy, but it covered the expenses. At the time, nobody realized that Pamela was discreetly carrying a terrible past that included years of sexual abuse, trauma from childhood and adolescent abuse that persisted for decades. Yet in that when Vancouver wasn't about suffering, it was her opportunity to begin in 1989, when Pamela was 22 years old and satin as she was wearing a tie during a BC Lions football game at BC Place Stadium. When a stadium camera focused on Lavitt's face, she was wearing a beer t-shirt. Came on the Jumbotron, the audience erupted in wild cheers. Couldn't take her eyes off of her. Stadium officials asked her to come down for something. In that one moment, the audience gave her a standing ovation as she entered the field. Transformed a routine gym worker into a rising celebrity, and Lavitt's beer wasn't wasted. In a few weeks, they made Pamela an offer to become their spokeswoman. She was included in their new Blue Zone Girl campaign, and her pictures appeared on TV commercials, publications, and billboards throughout Western Canada, where her partner was at the time Dan Illis even used her photograph to design a poster. And suddenly, she was no longer Pamela was a phenomenon, but her story didn't end in Canada. Playboy magazine flew her to Los Angeles for a shoot after noticing the buzz. Shoot in October 1989, only a few months after Pamela's participation in the football game cover of Playboy, who was 22 at the time and was now well known worldwide. Wasn't just a this one-time event marked the start of a lengthy connection with Playboy that would transform her life. In February 1990, Pamela made the permanent move to Los Angeles following that shoot. More than just a centerfold, it was Playboy's Playmate of the Month. The title that made her famous in the entertainment industry sold more than 1.6 million copies, which is significantly more than the normal amount. She made the decision to receive breast implants at about the same time, changing her 34C breast size to 34D later. She would go up to 34D once again, and her figure would become a part of her brand. Not only did people notice her, but they also remembered her. Before Hollywood began, she received her first acting role in a sitcom the same year. Named, she was a minor guest and performed the role of Chris for Charles in Charge. Position, but she received $15,000, a substantial sum of money for a newbie. She wore simply a school cap and blazer tie for the heated first Playboy shoot. She was so anxious that she later puked, yet she overcame her fear with courage. Pamela's big break came in 1991 when she was cast as Lisa in the popular movie. She played the tool-time girl on Home Improvement, giving Tim some tools. Although Alan and his co-host Al were expected to play a supporting role, the Ashley Judd had initially been offered it by the producers, but she declined, so Pamela took over and created a lasting impression. Viewers adored her for two she gave the show and millions of Americans charisma and sex appeal in previous seasons. Saw her each week, and even when she left the show, she returned for a cameo appearance. Presence, this time as a physician, was a tribute to her progress when nobody anticipated that Baywatch would be canceled in 1990 after just one season. Return, let alone become a worldwide sensation, but it was revived in syndication by 1991. However, everything changed when Pamela Anderson joined the program in 1992. Her appearance as lifeguard C.J. Parker caused the show's viewership to soar. Can't get enough. By 1996, Baywatch had not only gained popularity, but also emerged as the most-watched program worldwide, with over 1.1 billion viewers each week. Broadcast in 142 nations before reaching 148, and it was translated into 44 languages that everyone from all around the world, with the exception of Antarctica, were familiar with it, and Anderson were the reason she became a brand rather than just a character. So crucial that Pamela clauses were included in international TV deals to ensure her presence. Fans didn't care that the show was being torn apart by reviewers. Anderson became the face of a generation's ideal of beauty, and they were captivated. She became a global celebrity after wearing a red swimsuit and running slowly on the beach. Icon, but it wasn't simple for C.J. Parker to retain his body. Anderson had a strict exercise regimen. Initially, she performed cardio and light toning, but she gained weight as fitness fads evolved. Training using light weights and a lot of repetitions for squats, lunges, and deadlifts. She also nailed her tricep dips, rows, and push-ups as part of her upper body program. Russian twists, leg lifts, and core hard planks prepared her stomach, for she needed to be strong in addition to being attractive for those well-known beach runs. Sufficient for lengthy shooting in the scorching weather, and even performed real ocean rescues. Anderson claimed that she was able to relate to CJ since they both had a fondness for crystals. CJ's spiritual side, which included meditation and dream interpretation, offered her something more profound. She wasn't just over 5 seasons. The character of the blonde lifeguard developed and had a romantic relationship with a family. Tales, and she even pursued a job outside of the beach by coaching volleyball. Started a beach cafe and became a rafting guide. Her followers adored her, and one website even gave her a ranking. Even after Anderson's departure, as one of the top 11 blondes in all of entertainment, fans never forgot CJ when she made a comeback for the 2003 Baywatch Hawaiian. She portrayed a new CJ in the 2017 Baywatch film and in the wedding special. However, when she joined, the money was a different story beneath the glitz. In 1992, she received a pitiful $1,500 each episode. Particularly for the star of the world's most popular show, her pay was renegotiated to $300,000 each episode, or roughly $6.6 million. Although it was a significant increase per season, David Hasselhoff was cut. Anderson never attained those types of rights to the show's earnings. No ownership, no significant residuals, and she only makes $4,000 annually from Baywatch. Replays. Despite the fact that the show is still broadcast globally, her son Brendan termed Anderson later acknowledged that it was a felony, and that she was unaware of what she was signing you. When you're performing, you have no idea that your act will be that popular in 1997. She left because she wanted calm from the pandemonium and was expecting her second kid, but it was more than that. Tommy Lee made her marriage a disaster. He detested her romantic moments and would demonstrate she was furious on sight, and no longer got along with Hasselhoff many people think that when she left, the charm began to wane on the show. Continued to limp until 2001, but Anderson's departure signaled the beginning of a protracted battle with fame. Confined her to a sexualized image from which she was unable to escape, and she struggled in 2024. After years of despair, she stated, "Sometimes it's not just a day, it's you can numb yourself once a year." It took her decades to rediscover tranquility, and 1993 was a novel year for her. Her first leading part was in the steamy she portrayed Felicity, a lady with lethal tendencies and disturbing dreams, in the thriller Snapdragon. When Raw Justice entered the scene, The Secret's reviewers were unimpressed. One reviewer said that the sole reason her character existed in 1994, another failure, was they felt her acting was bland for dull sex scenes rather than developing her. She was boxing in Pretty Face during her movie career, but then, this was meant to be Barbed Wire's major leap in 1996. She portrayed Barbed Wire, a leather-clad mercenary in a $9 million action movie. From the beginning, Post-apocalyptic America was a chaotic film, and the first director was changed. Anderson pushed through everything, and she even got real barbed wire tattooed. Every day she rode a motorcycle. She wore it on her arm rather than having it drawn. Performed her own stunts while wearing a 17-inch corset that was fitted around her waist, all the while grieving over her miscarriage that occurred during filming. She had married Tommy Lee prior to the shoot, and the pregnancy ended tragically. She informed the media that she continued filming despite having a burst ovarian cyst. Although the timing was off, her most physically demanding role was really worst. Arrived when Barbed Wire debuted in theaters on May 2nd, the most trying time in her life. It failed in 1996, earning just $3.8 million. Critics scoffed, and others blamed her leaked sex tape. But viewers didn't care. Dominated headlines, while some claimed that the film was just not as fantastic as it claimed to be. People weren't purchasing Casablanca in leather, so the production firm almost went insolvent. Rotten Tomatoes gave it 21%, and years later, a tiny cult. In the midst of all, the audience would learn to admire its chaotic manner. Continued to attempt making another movie called Naked Souls about a man who experiments with. She attempted to demonstrate her emotional range by portraying his love interest in human consciousness. However, Hollywood continued to use her for just one aspect of her appearance, which she told reporters was the being part of popular culture might be detrimental if you become well known for just one item. She loved theater, but the world would not allow her to pursue a career in real acting. Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee were married in 1995, having fun and taking pictures. Their trips captured on video. One of the 54-minute tapes, 8 minutes of intimacy might quickly and permanently alter their lives. Wasn't intended for public view, but when Rand Gothard, an electrician, was fired, everything began to fall apart. When he returned to retrieve his money after working on their Malibu property, he said the couple owed him $20,000. Tool's Tommy is said to have welcomed him with a shotgun, which subsequently ignited late on a Halloween night. Gothard broke into their home. While donning he walked out with a white yak fur shawl over his head to trick the surveillance cameras. There was that notorious tape Guer in a huge safe, and he did more than just watch it. A chance, he collaborated with Milton Ingley, a porn producer, and they produced copies. With the help of another adult and $50,000, they destroyed the original. By early 1996, the film mogul had sold the tape all around Los Angeles after posting it online. After realizing what had happened, Pamela and Tommy filed a $10 million lawsuit to stop the spread, but within a year, the tape was all over the place. It generated approximately $77 million in legitimate sales, but Pamela didn't get paid a dime. Later on, she stated, "I've never even seen stolen property." On June 6th, amidst the pandemonium, something lovely occurred. When Brandon Thomas Lee, their son, was born in 1996, he came in the midst of the controversy as cameras and lawsuits surrounded his parents. But he temporarily calmed their storm so they could concentrate on their family. Attempted to protect him from the commotion, but years later Brandon became well known for his roles in movies like Sierra Burgess, Who Walked the Dolce and Gabbana Runways, Is a Loser as his Cosmic Sin, and amassed over 440,000 social media followers. He also created a Netflix. He assisted in creating Pamela's Garden of Eden and produced a documentary about his mother in 2023. Wasn't only well known for his last name, he also made something original before coming born on December 29, 1997. Dylan Jagger Lee arrived exactly 7 weeks prior to the household strain had reached a breaking point, and everything was broken. Instead of being a happy occasion, Dylan's birth occurred shortly before violence would permanently dissolve the marriage, just as Dylan, his brother, did. He entered the worlds of music and fashion in 2016, walking the Saint Laurent runway. He afterwards served as a model for companies like Armani and Coach Hugo Boss. His visage was featured in GQ Vogue, and he joined the band to further his musical career. In 2020, Midnight Kids released an EP titled The Lost Youth, and by 2021, he had moved away to follow a new sound because he wanted to create something instead than live in the shadow of his parents. Original, but on February 24th, just as Dylan was beginning his life, everything came apart. When Pamela was holding their child in 1998, Tommy attacked her and told her to stop. When she refused to let her parents visit, things became violent. Had a torn fingernail and bruises, and he was taken into custody right away on suspicion. Comprised unlawful handgun possession, child abuse, and spousal abuse. 2 days later, Pamela filed Tommy entered a no-contest plea to felony spousal battery on April 8th in order to get a divorce. He received a sentence on May 20th that included 200 hours of community service, 6 months in prison, and was mandated to contribute more than $6,000 to victim programs and women's shelters. Was forbidden to go close to Pamela. She subsequently referred to it as the toughest, lowest, most challenging period in her life, but she added that she would always be thankful since he was her children's father. Pamela attempted to relocate once the dust settled. She made a comeback to television in September 1998 with a crazy action comedy VIP, in which she portrayed Valerie Irons, a hot dog vendor who was misidentified as a bodyguard. Despite the fact that she lacked fighting abilities, the show was hilarious and entertaining. Save the day. The sitcom included 88 episodes over 4 seasons, featuring well-known actors like Pamela didn't only star in Stone Cold Steve Austin and Jay Leno's cameos. She co-founded it in April 1999. She shockingly revealed that, at age 31, she had her well-known breast implants removed. One of the implants had begun to leak, so she stated it was a personal choice. When she was at the height of her fame, and still on VIP, her natural appearance didn't last a long time. But by 2004, she had bigger implants than previously. Pamela claimed that from 1998 to 2006, she simply didn't feel like herself without them. Continued to take on new roles. She provided the voice of a superhero stripper in Stan's animation Stripperella. Playing a party girl who works in a bookshop, Leanne Stack even shown appeared in Scary Movie 3 and returned to her role in Baywatch in a reunion film, however the most well-known cameo.